Welcome back to the channel, all you pure metal fans out there. Today I'm going to do my top 5 Whitecross albums. So without any further ado or sidetracking, chit-chatting, let's go ahead and get started. So at my number 5 spot is High Gear. There's a reason it's in 5th spot. It's kind of a carbon copy of, I'd say, In the Kingdom. Whitecross had such success within the Kingdom that it's like I said, mentioned in the Petra video, a lot of the record companies thought, well, hey, late 80s, early 90s, if we have a really successful, huge album, let's just sort of carbon copy it or make it, repeat the template, if you will. So that's kind of what this is, High Gear. I think it's a solid album. And it's also the last album before Rex Carroll left the band. And then he went on to form King James, and the rest is history. So, but in my number 5 spot of top 5 Whitecross albums, we have High Gear. All right, so here we go. My number 4, in 4th place, I've got Hammer and Nail. This one here, this is the sophomore album, and it has possibly one of the best Whitecross songs ever on it, which is Take It to the Limit. That's one of my favorites, with that killer hook in it and that riff. And I think some of you out there might have this quite a bit higher, but this is my number 4 spot for Whitecross albums. So Hammer and Nail came out in 1988, and clearly by far my favorite track is Take It to the Limit. There are some other cool tracks on here. I felt like this one was, in my mind, in my opinion, this wasn't as strong as the debut. Virtually every song on the debut Whitecross album was just killer. It was like that Rat meets Dawkins riffs and whatnot, and all the fill solos and fill leads were everywhere in that. This one had a little more bluesy stuff on it. It's got Because of Jesus on it and some other cool tracks. But this is my number 4 spot Whitecross top 5. At number 3, I have In the Kingdom. So this is pretty sure this is like the top selling, most popular Whitecross album, period. This was the one where I was saying that I felt like the record company with High Gear, they were trying to reproduce this, and then also, and therefore reproduce the success of In the Kingdom. But this one has, this is their first album released on Star Song Records after being bought by, I think Star Song bought Pure Metal Records, and this is the first album from that. And they brought in different producers and things like that. So the sound is, I probably like half this album. There's some more contemporary Christian type stuff on here. I think that's what made this more popular, CCM type radio songs. But overall, it's a solid 3 for me. We Know What's Right. That's a favorite track for me on there. Solid, killer song, killer riff. Love Is Our Weapon. That's very Dawkins-ish in my book. But a lot of folks will have this as number 1. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. I mean, I'd like to hear what your top 5 Whitecross albums are. I mean, obviously this is everything you're going to see from me today is going to be Whitecross with Rex Carroll. Because to me, it's not Whitecross without Rex Carroll. All right, at number 2, my number 2 Whitecross album is the debut. And the only reason this is number 2, because my favorite is just, it's so far in first place, it's not even funny. There's no comparison to me. This is number 2 only because this was the debut. When I first heard this, and I went into a record store I was living in Fresno, California at the time, and I went into this big Bible bookstore, and they had vinyl LPs were what they had were like demo versions where you could take that into a listening room, and the listening room later it became cassette tapes where you could. A lot of you will probably relate to me that, or relate with me in the 80s and early 90s. Christian bookstores had demo cassettes to go and then listen to on little tape decks on headphones or whatever, so you could listen to it before you bought it. Well, it was 1987, must have been 87, because that's when this came out. I went into I think it was Fresno Bible House or something like that. And they had, at that time, they had records. The LPs were the actual demos. So I took I saw the vinyl of this in the heavy metal section. I was like, wow, there's a new band. I took it in, put the record on the record player. They had these huge headphones. And from the opening track, Who Will You Follow? I was like, wow, who is this guitar player? And then Rex Carroll he just blew my mind. Just totally blew my mind with his playing and skill, because in the mid to late 80s, there were not a lot of, just a handful of Christian guitar players that could really, really shred and really, really keep up with the mainstream world. And I think Rex was probably the king of the 80s hard rock shredder type guitar players in the Christian world anyway. There were some other notable ones. There's probably 5 to 10 other guys that were world class, but Rex really just caught my attention, and this whole album rips. The only problem I have with it is the production quality was relatively low, and then that's why they also went ahead and redid this album. He re-recorded it in the mid 2000s. It's called 1987. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, heard of it. But anyway, I can talk about that later. Number 2 spot for me, number 2 favorite Whitecross album, the debut. And now, so we're going to get to my number 1 now. My number 1 favorite Whitecross album of all time is Triumphant Return. This one, to me, is their peak. Some would say, some people would argue that In the Kingdom was their peak. I think this was their peak. This is the last album on Pure Metal Records, and I know that Rex, I think he produced it, and just every song on here just smokes. I mean, Attention Please, what an opener with that riff. Straight Through the Heart, that's a very, like I said, you've got the very Rat sounding kind of vocals, obviously, by Scott Wenzel, very much emulates the singer for Rat. I can't think of his name right now. But you've got that, and then one of my favorite tracks, if not is Down. That's huge and massive and has that kind of a little breakdown before the guitar solo that sounds a lot like In the Still of the Night by Whitesnake. And I don't know if that was by design or just by influence, but it was quite evident. But it's really killer. It's not like a complete ripoff or something. So it's I think it's just awesome. Great song, great video. They have a really good video for that too. And then Behold, which is it's by far Whitecross's best ballad in my opinion. And then you have another example of really small, tiny writing. Gosh, what else? Shakedown, that's pretty good. Flashpoint, a really cool guitar solo. Over the Top, and then I would say my top favorite overlooked, or what do you call it? Side B song that a lot of people don't check out. Side B, they're like, oh, well, it's buried in the back, it must not be that good. Like, you'll put the least good tracks at the back side of the end of the record, right? Well, Heaven's Calling Tonight, I think that's one of the best Whitecross songs ever, and I would put that as right up there with any of the Whitecross songs. So this is my top 5 Whitecross albums. Number 1 in the Triumphant Return is my number 1 Whitecross album. So whether you agree, disagree, let me know in the comments section. Also, list your top 5. if I've made some mistakes on information, or you have something to fill or add or fill in, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. And we'll keep doing these top fives of primarily Christian bands. The Pure Metal Fan magazine, we focus on melodic Christian metal and hard rock. Sometimes we cover what we consider to be positive metal. So that's any metal band that maybe is Christian friendly, or they don't use profanity or other inappropriate stuff like that, or evil things. Anything that's evil or satanic, we're not going to cover. Also, another caveat, in the comments here below, or in the description, I'll put a link to, I'm going to start doing reaction videos to music videos, and also first listens of songs. So if you have a request for me to do that, go ahead, and in the description below, I'll put a link to the channels, to our PayPal, and if you just make a small contribution, and then the request in the notes through PayPal, if you say, hey, I'd like you to react to this song with this band, and if you can put a link into the actual YouTube video link, that would be great. And it will be done. I will do a reaction to the videos, or a first listen to a song. Go ahead and do that. And until then, keep it metal, and aloha.